are you guys? Hi, everybody. Happy St. Patrick's Day and Tuesday. I think everyone's admitted. If you guys have the ability to come off mute or put your cameras on, we'd love to see you guys. Want to go ahead and kick it off and start today's Spotlight series. Introducing our Spotlight series host for the day. I do want to basically kind of talk over Danielle, and then please correct me if I'm saying your last name wrong, but is it Wernert?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, perfect. So just a little background. She has a proven track record in learning and development with the trades. Danielle has spent years driving innovation in the technician training and onboarding across the home services industry. Having worked with hundreds of technicians, including many new to their field, she has been a key player in transforming how training is delivered. Previously named as HVAC News 40 Under 40, Danielle's mission as owner of Upskilled Consulting is now focused on helping businesses elevate their technician training strategies and analytics. Her experience includes securing over $600,000 in sponsorships and collaborating with Veteran Affairs to support team members. Danielle is committed to creating strategies that deliver lasting impact for organizations of all sizes. So today our session title is Stop Looking for Lucky Hires, Build Them in the First 90 Days. So I'd like to go ahead and turn it over to you, Danielle.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here with all of you guys. I am not in my normal space, so I tried to find a little cubby away. I'm at a conference, so I apologize if you hear a little bit of background noise, but I'm excited to talk with you guys today and share my love of training with all of you. So I encourage you as we kind of go through this, think of it. A lot of this can be married for your CSR roles, your dispatch, your office roles, as well as your technician roles. So think a lot about kind of opening your mind to any of the roles we need to establish that first 90 days with them. So super grateful for the introduction. Thank you so much. So yes, I specialize in building custom apprenticeships and onboarding. And I've also given myself the honorary title of driver of the fun bus. So I came in decked out with my St. Patrick's Day. So hopefully you guys can kind of enjoy a little kick out of that holiday twist. So we are going to get started doing a short little interactive activity. So, to practice, what we're going to do is I am going to read a statement. And if you feel that this statement applies or you've ever felt or resonated with that statement, I want you to give us a thumbs up emoji. So, of your Zoom, you'll see a little heart there that says react. When you click that, this little pop-up window comes up and you've got that thumbs up emoji there. So if we could, before I start doing any of those statements, if we could just do a practice thumbs up really quick, make sure everybody found their button. All right, I see a couple thumbs up. Awesome, awesome. Great. Okay. So we will go ahead and, like I said, if you feel that this statement resonates with you, go ahead and thumbs up for just a moment. So the first statement we're going to do is thumbs up if you've ever felt frustrated that new hires don't take ownership of their own growth. Does that resonate with anybody? Yeah, I see some thumbs up. Okay. Awesome. Go ahead and put those thumbs down if you've got them up, and we're going to do the next one. Give me a thumbs up if you have ever had a new employee overwhelmed in their first month. They are training, they are learning, and they are overwhelmed. Yeah. See a lot more thumbs up on that one. Yeah. Same. I have lived it on both sides. I have been delivering the training and I have been the new hire. So, all right, next one. Give me a thumbs up if you've ever realized that your training was mostly just a ride along or a shadow experience and just hoping that they would pick it up. You're like hoping that they get it, like jump in his truck, he'll tell me how you did, you'll be fine, right? That's the norm in our industry. So my goal is to change that. And then one more, I believe, off the top of my head. So give me a thumbs up if you've ever had to step back in because a new leader wasn't ready yet. So you got them trained. You were hoping they would know it by now, but there's so much to learn. They just haven't gotten it. You had to jump back in. Okay. Awesome. So a lot of these we can resonate with, and a lot of us experience the same struggles when it comes to onboarding and training. So hopefully by the end of this, you guys can take away a few nuggets on direction on how to change your onboarding strategy if you feel it needs improved, and kind of maybe some new ideas you hadn't thought about. So we are going to skip that one, and we're going to talk about what does the typical new hire experience look like versus how do we elevate it? What's an elevated experience for onboarding? So, a typical experience in our industry, what I've seen, what I've worked with, is that the training agendas can vary from hire to hire. We've got a new hire this week, and their agenda is, okay, we're gonna, throw them with this person, and then we'll see them in a couple days, and then we'll throw them with this person, and then you hire again, and the two onboarding experiences do not look the same. Another typical experience that we see is the mentor. So the person that's doing the training, maybe that's you, maybe that's a mentor or a field trainer or a great technician or a great CSR in your company, and you buddy them with that new hire. And so that mentor is trying to just remember everything them. And so they're going through and they're like, okay, oh yeah, let me make sure that I show you this in the computer. Or let me make sure that you do this in the job expectations. So they're trying to remember everything that it is they're responsible for training for. And then finally, like we saw a couple of those thumbs up earlier, typical experience, that new hire is drinking from a fire hose, right? Like you want to get them out on their own as fast as physically possible, whether that's in their own desk space or in their own truck. Our goal is to get them out. We hired them because we needed them. Let's get them out as fast as possible. So when we flip the script and we want to elevate that experience, instead of training, from varying from hire to hire, I encourage you to have a defined 3-week training agenda. Now, take that 3-week lightly. I have seen some people do really successful 2-week onboarding and really successful 4-week. 3-week is just the sweet spot I've personally found in the middle. But define that 3-week agenda. Who are they shadowing? When are they meeting with their manager? What is the goal of today? What is the goal of tomorrow? And giving them detailed training checklists. So Service Titan checklist is a huge one that I see in the field. We create this massive checklist of, hey, what does a technician need to know on their tablet or on their phone to be successful in the job? So elevating that mentor, trying to remember everything, make sure we're training and onboarding our mentors, right? So I think that's a major, not just in our industry, but I think that's a major gap is we assume because they're really good at the job or because they know how to do it, that they know how to train it and mentor it back. So have we actually sat down with our mentors and said, okay, this is what that end goal should look like for that new hire. This is where I want you to focus. This is how I want you to deliver that information. So if you don't have a training, at least conversation with that mentor, I would recommend start doing that. And then to kind of elevate from drinking from a fire hose, giving them something tangible that they can refer back to. Their brain's only going to absorb so much information for a day, but if you give them something like a workbook, which we'll talk about more, and I'll show you some examples of workbooks here shortly. But if you give them something like a workbook and it's not just a lined blank notebook paper, it kind of helps jog their memory. They've got something they can go back to take notes and kind of remember what they had learned that day. So that's 3 ways I would recommend taking the typical onboarding experience and elevating it just a little bit. All right, so now I want to talk about when should you have a first 90 days experience? So the obvious answer is when we hire somebody, right? Like they have this first 90 days experience, and I want to get away from just kind of calling it onboarding, I guess, if you will. That's what it is, but it should be a whole experience with your company, right? And so obviously when we hire somebody in new, they have to learn about the way your company operates, your company culture, your process, all of these things that we expect them to learn. But again, I'm going to kind of uncover another like major gap that I see in our industry is that we support these people when they join our team, but sometimes we leave out the support when we just promoted them. So if you've got a great CSR that is now becoming your lead or an office manager, or you have an amazing technician and you're going to make them a senior tech or a service manager, anytime we promote somebody into that role, in my opinion, they should go back through a first 90 days experience. And I don't think that necessarily means pulling them out of the field for 90 days or anything like that. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying that we should expect anybody that's been promoted in our company to go through the same onboarding experience that we would bringing somebody completely external from the company. They may already know your company culture, but there's so much that changes in the job scope and the job expectations that we need to do our due diligence of defining that and working through that with them. So if you're not already doing onboarding for your promoted employees, again, that's another place that I would recommend kind of diving into. And the goal of all of this is to set your company apart, right? I can tell you 90% of the companies that are out there, they're not doing that. So that's one easy like checkbox. We're going to be different because we support our team through and through so promotions are a great time for onboarding or first 90 days experience. All right, so I want to walk you through what is the first 90 days. And for today's conversation, I really kind of mapped it out into three different sections. And so the first section we're going to talk about is the selection process. So how do we find the right candidate? What does that process look like getting them ready for our day one to join the team with us? So when we look at that selection process, if any of you guys are avid readers out there, if you've not read this book, this is my number one book recommendation. I love it so much. It's Patrick Lencioni's The Ideal Team Player. And so basically this entire book revolves around hiring candidates that are humble, hungry, smart. So I use this logic a lot. I can teach you how to, swing the hammer and turn the wrench. I can teach you how to get into Service Titan, how to book a job, how to, book a lead. I can teach you all of that. But at the end of the day, I can't teach you work ethic and I can't teach you how to be a good person for our customers. That's just something you have to have. And so that humble, hungry, smart, this book is a really great guiding metric to kind of help you define who is the person that's going to fit with the culture that you're creating in your team. So again, if you are a book person, I would highly recommend this book if you have not read it. So, all right. So I wanted to give you guys some case studies, kind of some real world examples of places that I've seen this in. And so for this one specifically, when I first started, I build a lot of apprenticeships. And so I build a lot of, insert company name academy. And so in doing that, I was really fortunate with focusing on that humble, hungry, smart, because we had the mindset of, again, I can teach you everything you need to know. I expect to teach you. I want the best of the best people in front of me. And so I had a semester where I had 43 apprentice seats, and that was across plumbing and HVAC, but we did it cohort style. So we were opening the doors and like letting in the floodgates. And so looking only at humble, hungry, smart, and 43 seats, I had 2,000 applicants. I'm not kidding you. Like we had 2,000 applicants to sift through and go. It was a lot. It was a lot, but it was incredible because this candidate pool opened so much. So I wasn't, fishing from the same barrel anymore of looking for that unicorn technician. I knew I was going to grow them. And so I got to choose my candidate pool opened exponentially. So it does work if you're willing to put in the time to train them a little bit and you're not, dependent on that unicorn, the people will come. All right, I'm going to pause there for just a quick second. Just I can't see the chat, so if there are any questions that you guys have, please throw them in that chat, and then my friends will kind of help out for me. So are there any questions currently?
No.
Okay, awesome. Well, we will keep going. And like I said, I apologize. There's some people in the hallway, so I apologize if there's some background noise. All right. So looking at that first day or that pre-selection, I'm so sorry, the pre-employment assessments. This is something that I love implementing. You might see that little like note at the bottom there that says each state's hiring regulations may vary. So I can't give you a one size fits all assessment because your states may vary in how you have to implement it or how it has to be designed. But I can give you guys some examples of pre-employment assessments that I've seen across the country. So one would be your soft skills assessments. And in my recommendation, I would map that soft skill around the humble, hungry, smart. So read the books, figure out what humble means to your company. What does hungry mean to you guys? And create some either interview questions around it or, quizzes or things like that, depending on how far down the rabbit hole you want to go with pre-employment assessments. So soft skills, I would tie that with that humble, hungry, smart. Technical skill quizzes. This I would not do that if I was hiring somebody green that I knew I was going to be training. But whether it's a computer typing test or it's how can they perform a heating tune-up or a cooling tune-up? I because that's what I started in the industry in. But can you create multiple choice quizzes to kind of give you a baseline? When I use these, I like to have my candidate take the assessment, and then we'll talk about it in the actual interview and kind of give you an idea of like where their experience and their foundation lies. And then you can also just check their industry knowledge in general. So that's a great one for a CSR role as well. I see a lot of, we had to create a lot of like HVAC 101 or plumbing 101, just to kind of give them some foundation because CSR, in my experience, has been a very like entry level role where they're probably coming in from outside the industry altogether. So if you need somebody that's already got a little bit of that background knowledge, you could potentially look at a pre-employment assessment in that realm. All right, moving on to section 2 of the first 90 days. So we've figured out our candidate, we've made the offer letter, they've accepted, and now we're going to look at that training period. So we're going to look at, okay, they've come in day 1 to about the point when we say, they're good on their own, they're good independently, and that should not take the 90 days, right? So again, that's that 3-week sweet spot. So day 1 to 3 weeks ish is what we're about to talk about. So the first day, some do's and don'ts that I would recommend. So your first day, do create an engaging presentation about your company. I see this a lot. My don't recommendation, don't read off all of your company policies directly off of a 3,000 slide deck. It will be death by PowerPoint. They will not remember it all. Pick the most important pieces, make it engaging, tie it back to that workbook. How can they make it fun? Do some word searches, some fun things like that. So make the first day engaging. That's your first impression. We talk a lot about our first impression with the customers. And so whether that's on the phone and our tone of voice, or that's the first time we're knocking on the door and we're greeting that customer, that first impression matters. Same thing for a business. That first day of onboarding is your first impression to your candidate or to your new hire. So make it big, make it memorable, make it fun. So next, do tour the building together. Introduce them to key players. Don't just tell them, oh, like go find John somewhere. He's probably in the warehouse. He'll tell you what to do next, right? Like don't just send them away. Be a part of that experience with them. Walk them around. Introduce them. Offer to have lunch with them if your company doesn't already do lunch plans or something. But go be a part of that guide and that tour with them. And then finally, do leave them with a feeling of, I can't wait to come back tomorrow. Not the, what did I just do? What did I just sign up for? Right. So again, that first day is your first company to your new hire. So you want them to leave that day 1 and you want them to be so excited that they can't wait to come back tomorrow. So
I'm so sorry.
no, you're okay.
I'm looking for the band too. Do you know anything?
I am so sorry. I don't. I'm just on a call. I'm so sorry. I don't know where it is. Yeah, I'm sorry. All right. Sorry, guys. Like I said, I'm kind of in the little wing of the hallway of the conference. So thank you for your grace in all of this.
Danielle, I actually had a question for you regarding the first day.
Yeah, tell
Um,
me.
I find that orientation day is super stressful for me
Okay.
as the general manager.
Yeah.
I don't feel like we give enough time for the orientation because management has very conflicting ideas about how long we should take. And so I guess my question to you is, managers that I work with don't quite always buy into how important it is to have those first day conversations. Do you have any suggestions on how to navigate that?
Yeah, definitely. So the first day kind of onboarding, I've seen done a plethora of different ways. I've seen it an entire day. Depending on like if it's a field person, it's a little tricky to like start the day in the office and then find a way to get them in the field. So that's usually an easy kind of out, if you will, on that. It's like, hey, we're just going to keep them the first day. We're going to cover safety. We're going to cover all of those things. Also seen it, the sweet spot is like 2 to 4 hours because you are flooding them with important information. So I would encourage them 2 to 4 hours and just kind of one thing that I do to get buy-in a little bit is part of what I do in when I build like onboarding experiences for people is we all get together, management and everything, and we create a wish list. We say, okay, if you could wave a magic wand, what does the onboarding experience look like for you? Or what if sky's the limit, what would that look like for you? And have them create that wish list. And then when you go back and you design that day one strategy, and you're like, here's the slide deck, here's the information, the clarification, you can kind of go back to that wish list and usually it's on there and you can kind of lean into that and be like, we built these resources. This is what you guys had wish list. Here's how to do it successfully. We need X amount of time. Um, you might not get every person's buy-in, but eventually, hopefully they'll see that it's you're providing better train people to hand them over to, I guess. Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah. Thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Yeah, great question. Any other questions?
No, not at this time.
All
Unless
right.
anyone wants to come off mute, feel free.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. No worries. We'll have time for questions at the end too. So, all right. So, looking at that first day and even beyond, even the first week, I always say, you don't press your luck with a poor training experience. So, whether or not they tell you, which if you're not doing onboarding feedback surveys, again, highly recommend at that 90-day mark, sometimes 60 days, just depending on, what you're doing with the information you receive. But do that feedback survey at the end. What did you like about onboarding? What can we do different? But even if they don't tell you in that survey, or if they never tell you to your face, your new hires absolutely notice when you're scrambling to find somebody that they can ride along with. It's like, oh, hang on, let me get you a guy. Let me see who's where and who can come back and pick you up. They notice that. It should be planned in advance. Hey, my new hire is going with this person. Here's the expected time. It's all planned and organized. It's not going to go perfect according to plan every single time, but it's a little bit better than just picking up the phone and calling random people. Hey, can they ride with you? Hey, can they ride with you? So they also notice if you're constantly rescheduling their 30, 60, and 90-day check-ins, or you cancel them altogether. People get busy, the meetings get canceled, I get it, and then they never get rescheduled, and they notice that. They want to hear that feedback. They want to know that they're going the right direction. And so they also notice when your trainers or your mentors weren't taught how to effectively train, right? So we talked about that a little bit at the beginning. You're really good at your job, so that you must be able to train it, right? Like they'll shadow you. You got it. It's fine. They notice that. And then also finally, that onboarding training is pulled solely from memory. So again, we talked about that, not having that written strategy, that written checklist and map, if you will. It will change, it will change the game for your onboarding, I promise you. All right, so these are the workbook examples that I mentioned. So these are just a couple screenshots of some of my favorite pages that I've done in some workbooks. So if you have like a 90-day, I call it your 90-day playbook, right? You're creating an experience, not just new hire guide. You're creating them a playbook, right? So it's that elevated language. So for me, at bare minimum, you're going to include training agendas, checklists, visual aids, guided questions. Hey, ask this. What are the key competencies? In a perfect world, they'd know everything, but what is the bare minimum that they have to know, they need to know? Have you defined that? What's continued ed look like? What are assessments? Are they ready to graduate? Which we'll talk about some assessments here shortly. And then planned manager check-ins that don't get canceled, that don't get rescheduled. So I can tell you, I do a lot of these workbooks and I recommend a specific workbook per role. I don't think there's a one size fits all. The CSR workbook looks very, very different than the HVAC installer workbook. So for every key role, you really need a playbook. Typically, experience they range 75 to 120 pages. They are thick, they are robust, and they've got everything they could need, and they're interactive. So you can see here, there's some manager check-in, fill in the blank boxes, guided questions. You can see the dress code expectations one there at the bottom. I also recommend in doing these, take a look at your employee handbook. And I promise you, nobody's reading 40 pages of paragraphs. How can you take the key elements in your employee handbook, still deliver that? That's critical. Don't get rid of it. But how can you take the key elements and turn it into a picture or a worksheet or a word search? How can you take that book of paragraphs and make it interactive and engaging in your playbooks? So that's a really, really big piece of it that I recommend. All right. And then finally, rounding out to the end of that first 90 days, we're going to talk about kind of the graduation, the assessments, if you will. So, graduation, I am a huge, huge advocate for objective information versus subjective. So, a lot of times right now, we're very subjective, and I feel like they're ready. I feel like they got it, right? And we base a lot of that on just our own thoughts and our gut feeling, if you will. So, I encourage a lot of companies to kind of transition to that objective. How can we add numbers? How can we add data to this information? And I'm going to give you guys a couple of can do that. So one thing I love doing, I'm a huge advocate for like building software and like training dashboards. So you'll see a couple screenshots throughout these next slides of some examples of like dashboards that we've done. And so the first one is going to be like a tool inspection. So this has been done primarily in the field, but if there are tools that you require, but for some reason or another in the office, you could mirror it. But a lot of it is like defining what tools do they need to be successful in their role? Have we actually inspected that they actually have the tools that they need? I can tell you, I did a tool inspection. I implemented it at a company where we had 500 technicians. And of those 500 technicians, 11% had all of the tools that they needed. So that meant that 89% of this employee pool was missing key critical tools that they needed to do their job. So whether you just do this in onboarding or you make this part of like an annual, foundational alignment is what I call it. If you make it part of an annual process, that's up to you guys. But I would absolutely recommend at bare minimum doing it at that onboarding. So you can do a checklist. You can build it to where it kind of tracks all of that for you. You can do all this in Excel too, but if you kind of want some advanced features and things, you can actually not only do they have the tools that they need, are they in good order? Are they in working condition? Do they pass the safety need? So first recommendation is, do they have the tools? Yes or no? Again, kind of, okay, well, yeah, he told me he's got the tools, or yeah, the bag is full there, she's got the tool bag in her truck, so it's fine. Did we objectively look at that from a data perspective? So that's my first step. Second step is certifications. This is a really big one that I see missed in a lot of companies, where we say, hey, you need your EPA certification or your OSHA or something, and hey, just bring a copy of it to day one and we'll take a copy for you. And then you get to day one and, oh, I forgot it at home. I'm so sorry, I'll bring it. And so where the disconnect happens is all parties involved forget after that step. So making sure that you go back to having it on file. Do you have a tracker? Do you have a dashboard or some way to keep it top of mind? Who's got the licensing? Who needs to sit for certifications, and kind of tracking all of that. So again, it's a very objective answer. I've got it on file. Yes, they have it. Here's when it expires. And then another one is that skill assessment. So for skill assessments, what I recommend you do is I recommend for each role that you are going to kind of like focus your training on, select 3 to 5 non-negotiable skills. So in order for them to graduate from their onboarding training and work independently, so again, maybe that's their own desk, maybe that's their own truck. What are 3 to 5 skills? We cannot give them keys to their truck until they've passed these skills. So start with those 3 to 5. And then from there, you can break down, okay, well, what are the steps in doing that? So I can create an observable rubric, an observable checklist. So you can kind of see here's an example of like the dashboard that I was talking about. We did this for a plumbing inspection. And so we were able to say, we were able to watch them on a job or in a training lab and say, okay, we've defined what a true inspection looks like. Now let's check off, can they actually do it? And now you've got numbers, you've got objective data, you can set passing, failing, score thresholds. So again, it's kind of geeky, it's kind of nerdy, there's a lot of numbers, but I love objective data. The numbers don't lie, right? So those are just a couple examples that I would recommend. And then kind of wrapping up for that, I want to definitely open the floor for questions. But if there's any way that I can support your success and kind of help you brainstorm some ideas for onboarding, think about what a 90-day workbook or 90-day experience looks like for you. Or even if you want to just talk training dashboards, those are like my three bread and butters. Like I could talk about those all day long. So if you scan that QR code, it should take you to my Calendly and just kind of throw some time on there. So. That is all I have for you guys, my friends. So I would love to hear any questions that I could help support you.
Thank you so much, Danielle. So yes, we did have a few questions pop up. Kim and Melissa both asked if you had any PDF templates or examples of one. And then Melissa mentioned, is there any framework or templates available as a guide?
Yeah. Yeah, great questions. So I didn't want to make it a sales pitch by any means. So I do consulting where I build onboarding and I build training apprenticeships and strategies. So yes, 1000% they exist out there, even if it's just WeChat and you want to kind of reach out to me and like I will help build you guys the materials. I'm happy to do that. Otherwise, if you just want to chat and kind of like get some ideas on like, hey, this is what we're thinking. What do you think? What do you think? Like, I'm happy to just brainstorm as well. So yes, I do have templates and things like that. I don't technically like share all of them, but I did want to give you guys some of those screenshots so you can kind of get some examples. Because sometimes when I just say like a workbook, people are like, okay, but what does that mean? And so I wanted you guys to see a couple like visual aids. So, but yeah, if you have questions on a specific template or a specific piece, happy to help you. If you want help with the whole workbook, I'm happy to do that too.
And Renee, it looks like you have your hand raised. Did you want to?
I do. I figured I'd just come off mute. Thank you so much. This is awesome information. It's something that I feel like we've been talking about for a while, but have a really hard time setting time aside to get this set up because I'm sure everyone looking at this it's definitely a labor of love.
Yeah.
So starting from scratch, if we were to come up with this on our own, what do you feel like main starting points? Because I feel like this is going to be like a phase thing where it's like, okay, we need at least this bare minimum to start with, and then okay, here's all the pages that we need to add and create. And some people have design abilities, and then you've got to get like marketing involved if you need to make sure it's like brand associated too, because something that I can put together is probably going to be something different than someone, like putting a Word document together. So break it down. Like, where would you say the best place
Yeah.
to start is for something like this?
1000%. Super great question. Yeah, I can tell you that I've done quite a handful of these workbooks, and not one of them has ever looked the same. So you're absolutely right. And so that's another reason why kind of templates like that they might work as a starting point, but it'll never be the answer. So it'll all vary by like how your business operates. I think if I had to give you a starting point, I kind of look at it in you've got really I would define your key roles first. I would not go in with a mindset of I'm going to create a playbook for every role in my business because you may hire accounting once every 3 years where you hire CSR or a technician every single month, right? And so I would say, what are your 911 roles? If you look at the rest of this year and you look at growth for next year, you're going to hire the most, start with those. I think pulling all of your key players into that wish list meeting is really critical because it gets all the buy-in, and it also will help you because there will be some things that cross departments. And so like how you present the culture, or how you present the HR pieces of each position is going to be very, very similar. And then really when you get into the nitty-gritty checklist piece, that's when it kind of varies. So I would start with a wish list meeting, kind of collaboration of the minds, and then I would pick your one, maybe two. I would not go beyond two if I was just starting this roles, and then just start hashing out, okay, what is everything that they need to know from day one to being independent? And then it's easier to throw everything at the wall and cross it off than it is to kind of be like, dang, I wish we would have included that kind of thing. So I would start with spaghetti at the wall. It's my favorite thing to do. Just like throw it on there. If it sticks, great. If it doesn't, that's okay.
And who creates this in a company? Like, who would you think is the person that's like actually putting it together and implementing it?
Yeah, I think so. Typically, like when I'm working with companies, if they're a larger company and they've got an HR role, that's typically who leads it. But you have to have those subject matter experts of the service managers, and they have to be able to vet the content is correct. So it's really an all hands on deck kind of thing. I think you can do it depending on the capacity of your team. You can do it one of two ways. You can either say, hey, we're going to set weekly meetings and everyone's going to be in here. We're going to all hold hands together. We are going to start and finish the race together. Or if you've got a little bit more capacity, you've got an HR person that can handle it or can do it. Maybe it's a, hey, we're going to have this wish list meeting. I'm going to go to the drawing board. I'm going to design and build, and then I'm going to come back, and then we're going to edit, and we're going to take apart, and then I'm going to go back and fix, and then I'm going to come back to all of you. That's typically the way that I do it. That's what I see easiest because if you go to your service manager and you say, hey, I need you, even in busy season, this project needs done. I need to pull you out. Sorry. They're probably not going to super love it often. So
Yeah.
great
Awesome.
question.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Danielle, how would you how would you combat a company that has like six different departments?
Yeah.
Do you make this extremely custom to each department? Would you attack it that way? That might be a silly question, but
No, it's not a silly question. Yes, 1000% I would. Typically what I find is like the first, I break the workbooks up into like 3 to 4 sections. So section one is always company culture and policies and process. That 95% of the time, you can copy and paste that to every single department work. It's pretty similar. You might have to tweak a few things here and there, but it's pretty similar. And then you get into part two, which is like meat and potatoes of that role and that role specifically. And then part three is typically like, that's kind of where I'll throw in that like HVAC 101 or electrical 101 or whatever, just kind of that introduction to the industry. I'll throw that at the end of the workbook as well. So yeah, every single playbook that you design will be different, even within your own company. There is no one size fits all. Great question.
and then do you have the capability to build like the dashboards that you touched on in Service Titan? Is there any sort of integration that you've been a part of?
Yeah, great question. Yes. So personally, this is just personal preference. It's what I learned. I use Airtable for my platform. And I joke all the time that I think I broke Airtable because I don't think the way that I use it and the way that I build them is what it was originally designed to do, but it's really incredible. So you can use it all from like tracking skill competencies, which I know Service Titan has that like check box of like, okay, which technician can do skill X, which technician can do skill Y. So Airtable does have an engine. It is a third party, so I can't speak for like the subscription cost. I don't really know all of the fine details, but I do know it talks to Airtable via Zapier. So I know that is an option. I've had some people want to integrate it, and some people are like, we'll just, we'll manually input a Excel or we'll manually input a report or something. So, great question.
And then it looks like Renee had a question. Are there any skill assessments that you like to recommend?
Yeah. So when I think skill assessments, I think bare minimum to do their job. And I don't mean that to sound bad by any means, but I think like if I'm getting a maintenance tech, the bare minimum call that I am going to send them out in their own is a plumbing inspection or a membership call or a heating tune-up. So I would start with those. Installing an outdoor unit. I would start with all of those, like what are the fundamental skills that they need? And then if you want to really get robust in specific skills and like skill advancement, I would honestly kind of more piggyback that into like continued education versus like onboarding. So those are like two different realms. Like you can go down those rabbit holes for days, just because they're so robust. There's so much information.
Thank you.
Yeah, great
Does
question.
anyone else have any questions? Anyone want to come off mute and
Yeah, I'd love to hear what you're doing. If you have ideas to share with the group, I would love to hear that. I talked really fast, so when I practiced, it took longer, so I'm sorry.
Courtney, you can come off mute. I see your hands raised.
That's me. Thanks. I had a question. Marissa had said earlier about third-party recruiter and using an assessment after that. Marissa, what assessments were you putting in there?
so what I can say is that we use I believe it's like a sister company to BDR, but they're called Recruit for Business. And as far as the assessments, I definitely wasn't a part of creating them. It's a part of their third party service. But I do know that they have an assessment based on the position that we're hiring for. Um, but what I can say is we recently changed over to an unlimited plan. So basically in the past, we would get the resume and then do a 15 to 20 minute phone call with them and then be like, okay, let's do an assessment. Well, now we're basically tapping into let the third party, do the soft call, look at the resume. If they meet, our core values and our recommend or our required qualifications, and they're immediately doing the assessment. And what that entails, I actually am like, let me see if I can pull it up. Not only is it like a personality assessment, so there's three that are always done. And one of them is like an individual assessment, which is basically their personality. And then the second assessment is called work fit. So, do they fit the role? What are the positives, the negatives? And then the third assessment that they do is titled it's actually the position itself. So, like for example, a full charge bookkeeper. That's something I'm trying to hire for. So that assessment is basically more about like the actual role itself. So for this one, there's probably heavy accounting that they assessed this person on. So hopefully that helps answer your question. But we were spending way too much time trying to decide, okay, do we want to assess this person? Do we not? Maybe we'll have them interview first and then we assess them. So it was just causing a lot of delays. And this really speeds up that process. So
Awesome. Thanks. That helps.
yeah, no problem.
Sounds great. Yeah, and I always kind of like led with that caveat of like I don't have an HR background, like I can't speak to like HR law, so like definitely I didn't. If you don't have an HR person, like reach out to like your SHRM wherever you're at and make sure that you're doing it because there are some funky like states where it's like I've encountered some states where if you give a pre-employment assessment to one candidate, you have to give it to every single candidate regardless of where they're you have to have a system in place and it's got to be that fair and equitable. So sometimes there's some extra hoops to jump through. So I encourage them. I think they're fantastic especially if you can customize them to your ideal candidate and like who you're trying to get out of it. I would just recommend before you implement anything, my personal soapbox would be just check it and make sure that you're following crossing all your T's and dotting all your I's.
That's a really good call out.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd like to, I was going to say, can we have a raise of hands of people who actually have a custom 90-day experience workbook just to see if this is standard practice with anybody? Because we definitely don't. So I'd like to see if anyone,
I love
yeah,
that.
Renee, okay, thumbs down. So we have no hands raised. Okay. Not that
Yeah.
we don't have some great processes in place, but I mean, this is an amazing tool
Yeah.
that I see huge value for any company to have.
Yeah. Well,
So
and it really stemmed from so many like onboarding. We're like, okay, well, we have 45 different files in different places, and here's the SOP. Here they need to learn this. And it really just felt discombobulated. Like it didn't feel clean. It didn't feel like the elevated experience we wanted to be giving. And so it was like the workbooks and the playbooks were really a way to like house everything together and really give you like, hey, we're invested in you. Like here is your guide, right? Like we are so excited to be a part of this for you. And like here is your map, if you will. So it stemmed from a pain point and it turned into something incredible. And I can tell you, after building a handful, like quite a few, I've learned a thing or two. There's some obstacles sometimes, but you just kind of have to pilot them a little bit. My biggest piece of advice, if you do create a workbook or a playbook, have your current staff go back through it. When you implement it, say, okay, everybody's going to go back through this. We're going to make sure everybody's on the same page. We're going to lay that foundational alignment, and then we're going to, we're going to grow. We're going to go up from there.
Can I chirp in one more? Because what hit me, Courtney again, what hit me was what you were talking about with the 90-day playbook.
Yeah.
And you referenced about the regular training handbook. And I'm
Yeah.
thinking, I've got I've got a training handbook. It's got to be close to 100 pages.
Mhm.
And I mean, I took so much time. I documented everything. I'm talking here for in-office staff, not for the technicians. That's a
Right.
separate thing. So much in there, screenshots,
Mhm.
to do, here's this, here's that. So that way, when questions arose, it wasn't coming to me. They had a chance to figure it out on their own.
Yeah.
And you know what happened is everybody stopped referencing this thing.
Okay.
I'm to this day still, when a question comes up, I'm going, yep, okay, I'll show you that. But it's in your training handbook, and we did train on it. This wasn't unheard of. We
Yeah.
did train on it, but it's supposed to be there for reference. And I don't know if it's the size of it. I don't know if it's the how it's laid out. I thought about, okay, maybe I need to switch from written into Loom videos, and then I'm thinking, I think I'm beating a dead horse here.
Yeah.
It's not working. So
Yeah.
why try to perfect this if it's not working? Anybody have this? Anybody have some solution to this? Is it
Courtney, we don't have that, but is it digital or is it only paper?
a great point? It is paper.
Okay.
I thought even at one point about, okay, I can put this thing into probably not ChatGPT for security, but maybe into Copilot so that it would be searchable, was one idea that I also kicked around. And that way, where Microsoft 365, they can have something pops up, they have a question that can be specifically like, how do I do a refund? Or how do I, whatever the specific thing needs to be done, reschedule a job or whatever it might be. But there too, I went, okay, I put in a lot of effort to that. And what if I do all that? And people are like, yeah, I don't like that.
So my recommendation would be, okay, first thing is that you've got it all in paper, you've got screenshots, and I hope that I don't break your heart when I say this, but in 6 months when all those SOPs change, you have to go back and re-screenshot, and it's a pain in the butt. So that's kind of the
When
biggest
Service
pain point.
Titan changes is when I have to do it. That's
You're
when
like,
it is. Oh, this
yes,
is no longer what the accounting tab looks like. This is no
yes.
longer what, the apply a payment looks like. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes. So that was a big learning moment. The first time I made the workbooks, we were like, okay, we need all the SOPs in here. Now I don't put a single SOP in any workbook. I will not do it. Instead, I map, and I've really kind of experience the art of asking questions. That was really hard for me to get out. But like just having them like know which questions to ask to learn the process or the policy, however it's in place at that time. Because as soon as you guys go and you start designing these workbooks, you're going to say, okay, I want to do the screenshot. I want to do the scribe.com where it takes all my screenshots and everything. It's going to be outdated tomorrow. So keep that in mind how you do that. Now, I would say in your case, from an office perspective, lean back towards those assessments. Like pick the 5 most common errors that happen in your job. Make those the graduation assessments and say, okay, maybe it's I don't have to sit next to you. Maybe it's I want you to jump on a Zoom call with no one but yourself. I want you to screen share. I want you to record yourself booking this job or doing this refund or this warranty, and then email me the link so I can check it or we can grade it or whatever. Or we can talk about it in your one-on-one. We can watch it together. There are ways that you can do assessments that don't have to literally be right over their shoulder if you don't have capacity at that time. So I would recommend kind of maybe starting there and seeing how that would work for you.
Great suggestion. Yeah. And Marissa, great as well. Yeah, you're right. Paper's dying. I just haven't figured out
Oh, we haven't
what to
either.
replace it.
We don't have we're on like Google and yeah, we're like paper everything, but I would like to find a digital software or platform where we can upload and have the searchable features, whether it's our IPP plan or our heat illness plan, whatever it is, CSR scripts, just something that's all in one place.
I would recommend to you, again, I kind of broke it and that's not what it was for, but everything you're explaining can Airtable dashboard. I will tell you, like, if you're not familiar with Airtable, I like not sponsored for them, but I love their content. Like, it has become my right hand. It's like a really fancy Excel, so it's all the formulas and the tables and the charts, and then you build a dashboard that sits on top of it. You don't have to know how to code. It's not that complicated, but there's a learning curve. I can tell you when I first started it, like I would build dashboards and I would have to scrap them because it wasn't what I wanted. So like if you stick with it, it gets easier, absolutely. But everything you're describing can be done in an Airtable dashboard, easy.
We had a couple people in the comments bring up Trello, and
Yeah.
we as like a management team use Trello for like our EOS like L10 meetings and planning, and we have a couple of them, but does anyone want to chime in and kind of educate the group on how they're using Trello for, I see Renee, you're talking about a CSR one. Are any of you guys actually putting like policies, procedures in there?
So we use Trello. A lot of it's more for SOPs, but there are some policy and procedures in there. So for instance, we'll have like a request for leave. Like if you want to take off, you can click that card and it has the process for it, but it also has why can't I think of the word, the document to fill out and who to send it to. But a lot of it is SOP and just like FAQ more or less. So, like Courtney recommend like how to do a refund. So what's our process for refunds? When do we allow them? When do we not? You can go into Trello and type the word refund and it'll show you where that word shows up. Um, or if somebody calls in, like we have a lot of product knowledge in there too, where a CSR might only get this specific question asked every now and then. So it says like if someone calls in and says, "Oh, my sump pump's not working and I need a new one," you can type in sump pump and it brings you to the sump pump card and it shows you here's the questions that you need to ask and here's the ones that we use and the ones that we recommend and when you can try to sell one over the phone versus when you schedule. So it's not its intended purpose. Trello is made for project management, but I'm happy to jump on a call with anyone if they ever want to see it. I see Courtney shaking her head. We put a lot of time into it, and I know I have it up right now, so I don't know if I can share, but I just like high level, but this is what my Trello board looks like for our CSRs. Is it loading? Here we go. So we've got like you talked about scripts and stuff. So all of these are in here and it's a lot of information. But if they need to know like HVAC diagnostic fees, they can pull it up. Here's the diagnostic fees. If there's anything else we need to put in here, we can. You can also search. So like I mentioned, like sump pump. So you can type in sump pump and it'll tell you where sump pump is located and you can find it. So that's what we used it for, and it seems to work. I'm working on a management one now, which I feel like is more process and policy than like SOPs. But even like when someone gets hired, here's the checklist. When someone gets terminated, here's the checklist of just more of like remembering what to do because if you don't do it often, it's very easy to forget who to go to and what the process is. So I feel like that's what I'm trying to use it for.
It's a great call out. Having that checklist is been a game changer, and like being able to track, okay, who's responsible for this? At what point in the onboarding does it happen? Because there's nothing worse than being like, oh, sorry, technician, I forgot to order your uniforms. They'll be here next week. It's fine. Like, right? Like and they slip through the cracks, right? Like our plates are at capacity. So how do we keep ourselves more organized? So I love having those onboarding checklists, game changers.
One thing that I did that I haven't quite, it just changes so often, but I do have a new hire checklist for every department.
Yeah.
And it kind of is broken out into what do I have to do before orientation, like
Mhm.
load them into service time, get them ready for that first day. And then what do I do during orientation? And then what do I do after orientation? So I've kind of started it, but
Yeah.
it's not perfect.
No, that's exactly how I map them out. Yeah,
Yeah.
1000%. Because you don't want to do all that work if they no show. Like heaven forbid, like you don't want to, do all these logins and stuff. Like just do the critical ones before they start, like an email, and then make sure they show up for day one and then finish the checklist.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Any
Does
other?
anyone else have any questions? Want to kind of pop off the mute or share anything about what they're doing? All right. Well, I want to just say thank you again, Danielle, for today's spotlight. It was great conversation. I think you gave us a lot to think about. Um, as a reminder, you guys, today was recorded, so this should go out in the next week or two. So make sure you share it with your team or anyone you see fit. And we'll be back on April 8th for our unrecorded session. And Renee, did you want to add anything before we go?
I don't think so. This was awesome. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, Danielle. Have a good rest of your day in Vegas. And did you want to share your QR code one last time in case
Yeah.
anyone wants to connect with you?
Yeah, I'd love to. I'd love to chat. I'm at conferences, so my schedule might look like really full. It's just for the next couple of weeks and then it opens back up. So I with all of you guys.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, thank you, everybody. Have a great day, okay? Bye.